Welcome to our C++ fundamental course. Today we are going to take a closer look on characters and strings. We already discussed this data type in previous lesson, but today we are going to take a close look on chars, what exact values chars can have, and how it affects our work with strings. So let's start with declaring a char variable, and let's initialize it with letter A. But how can we store a letter in computer memory? We all know that computer memory consists of zeros and ones. For this purpose, we are going to use encoding scheme called American Standard Code for Information Interchange that assign number to each character. So in this ASCII table, you can see that big letter A, is represented by the decimal value 65. So let's add a comment that it's actually is 65, or in binary this number. So when we declared char variable, our computer allocated 1 byte of the memory and initialized it with this binary number, which is 65 in decimal. And I want to show you one cool trick. Let's write our letter A to the console. So we are going to check that everything is okay. Let's build and run our program. And you can see result is A. But instead of A, I can actually initialize my letter with the integer 65 according to our encoding scheme. And if we now build and run this code, you can see that still result is A. Let's once again take a look at our ASCII table. You can see that first 32 characters from 0 to 31 in this table set as control characters, which are non-printable and used for various control and communication purposes. In code, I can assign them, of course, using the corresponding number, as I showed you with the letter A, or alternatively, I can use a special sequence to represent these non-printable characters. I will comment our letter for now, and let's say I want to write to the console the next sequence, the string hello world, now this special character /n, and another string how are you. So let's try to build and run our program. And you can see the result, hello world, next line, how are you. So this /n character that stands for the new line, it's a new line character. In our ANSI table, it's number 10, line feed. Now let's try to use number 9, horizontal tab. The sequence for horizontal tab is /t. If now I try to build and run our program, you can see the result now is hello world, our character tab, that stands for the /t, and how are you. Another cool character to use is /b, which is backspace. So you can see that now my first string is hello world and this exclamation mark, and then backspace and how are you. And let's try to build and run to see the result. And you can see that now with this backspace character, we erased our last character, this exclamation mark, and we are overwriting it with the H big. And now we have hello world without the last sign, how are you. And the last one I want to show is /r, which is carriage return. Let's try now to build and run our program. And you can see the result. Now we see only second line, because the carriage return, it returns our carriage on the beginning of our line. So we printed hello world, now we went back to the beginning of the line and overwrote our hello world with how are you. Second big question that arises when you look at the table: if character takes 1 byte of a memory, that is 8 bits, and 2 to the power of 8 is 256. So why there are only 128 characters in this table? The reason for that is that this encoding table, it was created a while ago when only 7 bits of the memory were used to represent character. So at the time this encoding table were created, there were only 128 characters possible. And now for the modern computer, when we have 8 bits for 1 byte of the memory, we have a new encoding system where usually the CII table is included, but for the characters from 128 to 255, you might have some different values. If you want to check what exactly you have, let's, for example, initialize our letter with 230, and let's try to write result to the console. Let's build and run our program. And you can see that if letter is equal to 230, I have this Greek letter mu. Let's also try to check 157. Once again, build and run our program. And you can see that for this code, I have a sign of the yen currency. Okay, so now try 230 and 157 on your machine and write in the comments what characters you have. Okay, now let's go back to our string. And you can see that here I separated my character from the entire string, from hello world and how are you. But what will happen if I concatenate all these strings? So if, for example, I try to type something like hello world slash, let's add here new line character slash n, how are you? So you might think that there are two possible options. First one, that we are going to see the string as it is, and second one, that we are going to see hello world, new line, how are you? So let's try to build and run our program, and you can see that indeed when we include this special sequence for special characters in the string, our compiler treats them as these special characters. So we have a result, hello world, new line, how are you? And this is true for all the characters I showed you. Once again, if I try to type hello world, the new carriage sign, how are you? We are going to have result, how are you? And now you can see that I have some kind of problem, that if I want to type string as is with the slashes, it may lead to unexpected results. Let's say I want to type to my console some address of some file in my system, and I'm going to use these slashes, and you can think that, well, here's I have /p and /big C. It doesn't correspond to any special character, should be safe, should be as it is. But if I try to build and run our program, you can see that actually all my slashes are skipped. I have only C, program files, code blocks. So this is something you should keep in mind if you want to type slash, if you want to include slash in string. In C++, instead of one slash, you should type two slashes. If I now try to write this line with the double slashes, you can see that now everything is okay. I have my address. Now let's go back to our hello world, how are you string, where we had this problem that /n is treated as a special character. If I try to add here one more slash, so to type hello world /n, how are you? And you can see that now result is hello world /n, how are you? So keep this always in mind. If you want to type a slash in the string and you don't want to deal with all these special characters and have any problems, instead of one slash, you should always use double slash. Okay, but what should I do if I want to type double slash? If I want to see the string as is, hello world /n, how are you? Well, in this case, we should type 4 slashes. And now we have the string hello world 4 slashes and how are you? And if I build and run this program, you can see that now as a result I have only 2 slashes. And for the same logic, if you need 3 slashes, type 6, if you need 4, type 8, and so on. Another problem you can think about is, what if I want to type quotes to my console? What if I want to see hello world in my console with quotes? If I try to include quotes inside of the quotes, you can see that now I have very strange code, and if I try to build and run it, you will get the error on this line. Compiler can't understand what is hello world because you have one string here, one empty string here, another empty string at the end of the hello world, and something strange between them. So if you want to type double quotes in the console, you should include slash quotes. And now let's do the same for the end of our string. Here we're going to add slash quotes. Now let's build and run our program, and you can see that now everything is okay, and I see hello world in quotes in my console. So once again, if you want to type quotes in the console, you should type slash quotes instead of just quotes. Okay, let's go back to our char letter, and you can question yourself if letter is represented as a number in this encoding system. Can I do different mathematical operations with the chars? And actually, yes, of course you can. You can work with the chars in the same way you work with the integer. Just keep in mind that char is only 1 byte of the memory. So let's say I have letter A and I want to type the next letter in the alphabet. So let's try to change our letter using increment operator we discussed in previous lesson. Let's now build and run our program to check the result, and you can see that now we have letter B because A in the encoding system is 65 and B is 66. Another cool trick, you can see that in this table A, B, C, D are numbers from 65 to 90, and small letter A, B, C, D, they correspond to the numbers 97 to 122. So there is fixed difference between big letters and small letters. And let's say I want to create a new char character, small letter, that will be equal to my letter plus 32. So now let's type to our console letter and small letter and check the result. And you can see that we have A, and our letter A 65 plus 32 is the number corresponding to the small letter A. So we can do any different mathematical operations on char variable. And what about string? Well, actually there is one mathematical operation you can do on strings, is sum. You can sum your strings. So let's create first string hello and second string world. And now let's try to type to our console. Okay, I forgot to name my variables. Let's call them string A and string B. And now let's see what will happen if I try to type A plus B. And here let's add our end line character and semicolon. And let's try to build and run this code to see what will happen. And you can see that a result of A plus B is a concatenation of these strings A and B. Hello world. I hope this lesson really helped you to understand how to work with characters and strings. If you still have any questions, write them in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next lesson.